always amazing how many
back and forth. Okay, today's daf is daf Lamed Aleph. We were on Lamed Amud Beis. Let's start again with the Mishnah. And our topic today is going to be about kavana, intention during shchita. Then later we're going to see getting into the issue of intention during going to the mikvah, intention during tvila. If somebody is walking on a bridge and the bridge collapses underneath him and he falls into the river, does he become tahor or not? Or do we say when you go in, you have to know that you're going in. You have to want to go in. You fell in other ways. Doesn't work. That's today's topic.
That's
right.
a nice mikveh water, that way.
Yeah, river works. The river is mikvah, sure.
Yeah.
Ocean's a mikvah.
Yeah.
All right, the Mishnah first. On Lamed Amud Beis. A person who slaughters two heads at once, two animals at once, it's a kosher shchita. We saw this Mishnah quoted a bunch of times yesterday. Two holding a knife and shechting. The Gemara thought maybe it means two different people holding a knife, two different knives. Ultimately, it says it's two people holding the same knife. Even when one is higher and one is below, one is on the top of the pipe, one's on the bottom of the pipe. Shkita so kosher. The shkita is kosher. And now a third law. Hitis is a rosh b'vasachas. If he chops off the head in one moment, in one motion, as he's cutting, right away off, the head goes. Psula, that's no good. That's drasa. That's pressing. That's chopping. That's not slitting. That's not shchita. However, let's say he was slaughtering. He was moving the knife back and forth. He wasn't chopping. He was moving the knife back and forth. And before he got to go back, the whole head falls off. It goes like this, and then the head falls off. So, depends how big the knife is. As we're going to see in the Gemara, that means if in the knife you have another neck area, in other words, the knife is big enough for two necks to go on it, then share, that's kosher, because even though it's just one motion, that's enough to fully cut through the pipes, and we think that the pipes are fully cut through, and now the head fell off.
That should be a very long knife.
A very long knife.
Yeah.
But, let's say he's slaughtering two animals at once. And in one motion, both heads fall off. If the knife is very long, as Baruch says, it's enough to have three necks on it, and it went through two necks and plus another neck, or area of another neck, share that would be a kosher shchita. When is this true? If we have one motion going and not going back. However, maybe he brought back but he didn't go. But if the motions were twofold, back and forth, and the head goes off, afilu kolshu, even if the knife is not big, it could be a very small knife. That's also kosher. Afilu izmail, even a little razor. But if he goes back and forth, that's good enough. Share, that's kosher. The Gemara is going to ask, what about a needle? What about other little knives? Okay, that's the Mishnah. Says the Gemara, how do we know this? That there is a problem of drasa. The chopping, knocking off the head in one motion is not a kosher shchita. Amar Shmuel said the pasuk about lashon hara. The pasuk says, "Chetz shachut lishonam mirma diber." A arrow of slaughtering is their tongue speaking falsehood. So you see that when the arrow flies, it can slaughter. So that means what is slaughtering? The way an arrow flies. An arrow doesn't fly and chop off; it flies and slits, as it slits through many things. Rabbi Shmuel is taught in a brisa from the Yeshiva Rabbi Shmuel. The verse, how do we know that you can't chop? You have to slit. The verse says, V'shachat. And V'shachat ela umashach. The word V'shachat means umashach, to pull back and forth. As we have in the verse, Zahav shachut, pulled gold. We have another verse, Chet shachut l'shonam mirma diber. Why do you need a second verse? If you're going to tell me Zahav shachut, it's not a proof to pulling. You can say shenitva kechutu. Shachut just doesn't mean that you pulled the gold. It means that you spun the gold like a thread. Kechut, like a thread. So Tashmas have another source that shachut means to pull. Chet shachut l'shonam. A tongue that slaughters is their tongue. An arrow that slaughters is their tongue. All right, so now talking about this exciting thing that you can shecht through firing an arrow. You fire an arrow, and as it flies, it slides across necks of creatures and slits the two pipes, or one pipe in a bird, and that's a good shchita. So he used to do it. Rava v'badik le'gira. Rava used to take the arrows of Reb Zera bar Tachlifa. He would slide, as we saw earlier, his finger or his fingernail on the edge of the arrow, make sure there's no pigima, there's no notch. It's a smooth blade. V'shachat ba'odfa b'hadi parach, and slaughter birds as they're flying. The bird is flying, you aim the arrow, fire it, and as the bird's flying, the arrow would slit the pipe. Amazing.
Nice.
Marksmanship. He's a sniper.
You could do it with a gun too, I guess.
Put an arrow in the gun. Put an arrow in the gun. Yeah. Put an arrow in the gun and fire the arrow out of the gun. Sure. Sounds like that would work. Fire it. So this is understand.
Perfect.
Oh, very good. This is now going to be Baruch's question. Remember how Geva taught us yesterday about how chalada is, where the knife is not on the surface, it's slid in between the pipes. So you fire an arrow, how do you know it was slid across the neck? Maybe it went in between the pipes. You do ma'avar chalada. Maybe the knife went in between the pipes. It was a covered knife when it slit. So the Gemara says, nope. Chazinan gidfi de miframi. Rava and Reb Zera used to see feathers slit. So you see the bird's flying, he shoots his arrow up, and the arrow goes right across the neck of the bird, and they know that it wasn't a chalada because it slit all the feathers. And you see lots of feathers, halves of feathers falling. So you know it didn't get into the inside and then from the inside cut. So I said, how was he going to do such a thing? There is a mitzvah, we're going to have a whole chapter of Masech Chullin about this mitzvah, called Kisi Adam. That if you slaughter birds or wild animals, there's a mitzvah to cover the blood. So if he's firing an arrow up at a flying bird and the blood falls, where's their Kisi Adam? Well, by Kisi, he needs to cover the blood. So, presumably the shechita is kosher without Kisi Adam, but apparently maybe there's some Isser D'Rabbanan. You shouldn't do a shechita if you're in a situation where you're not going to be able to do Kisi Adam. You need to cover the blood. You say, okay, what's the big deal? Wherever the bird falls, that's where the blood's going to fall. So around there you'll have blood that fell from the shooting of the arrow at the flying bird. And wherever the blood fell, you'll go cover it. It's not enough. When you slaughter a bird or a wild animal, you have to put dirt beneath where the blood's going to go and dirt on top of the blood. Because the verse says, it doesn't say you'll cover it with a little dirt. He says he will cover it in the dirt. That means it has to have dirt beneath and dirt on the top. It has to be in the middle of the dirt. It says in the dirt. You have to put dirt below and you have to put dirt below above. So the says, okay, you know what Rava and Reb Zera used to do? Before Rava would start shooting the arrows at the flying birds, he went through the whole valley and he pounded up all the dirt in the valley and said, I'm pounding it so that it is Kisi Adam dirt. So all this dirt is the bottom dirt. And then he shoots the arrow wherever the bird is flying. It was a very good shot. He slit the bird's neck. When the blood fell, he then ran over and he took some more dirt and covered it. So the dirt on the bottom, because he had pounded it all for the sake of being bottom dirt, is already bottom dirt. The dirt he puts on top is Kisi Adam on top.
I think he had a lot of l'chaim, Rabbi.
I don't think a shochet is allowed to show the chef if he has l'chaim.
It's too much.
You have to be very good. You have to be skilled.
Stuff you have to do to take the knife and boom, one shot, go.
All right, so now the Mishnah said, "Ayashochet v'hitis." So if you're slaughtering and in the act of slaughter, then the head falls off. If it's a long knife, so then it works. Reb Zera said, "How long is this knife?" It means malot savar. It has to be a full neck, the size of the knife. V'chutz l'tzavar, and outside of the neck. By the way, what does that mean? Outside of the neck. They had a question in the yeshiva. Malot savar, the knife is long enough to fill a neck. V'chutz l'tzavar, plus it has out of the neck area. Malot savar, another area of another neck. Avlu trait savari, which is what we've been explaining. It's a knife big enough, really, for 2 necks. Odilma maybe melot savar. It's big enough for a full neck. For chutzat savar, but outside of the neck is only a mashu, only a little bit more than a neck. So Tashma coming here proof. The next line of the Mishnah. Haya shoched, if he's slaughtering the hitish shnei rashim, and he slaughters 2 cows at once, and knocks out both heads in one motion. Hitish shnei rashim bevatzachas. He causes both heads to fall off in one motion.
Ooh.
So one knife move and gets through 4 pipes, so much so that both heads fall off. If the knife has enough space for 1 neck, it's kosher. What do you mean? What do you mean for 1 neck? He slaughtered 2 necks. It only has space for 1 neck, and he slaughtered 2 necks. Even if you're going to say it's a knife big enough for 1 neck, the sulo and no more. The Mishnah says that if you slaughter 1 animal, you need to have, and the head falls off. It's only good if the knife was big enough for the neck and more. So it said and more. So for 1 neck, you need to have a neck and more. For 2 necks, you only need 1 neck. It makes no sense. It has to be more. So when you have 2 animals, it's going to be enough to have a knife long enough for 1 neck? No. So what does it mean? It needs to have 1 neck. If you have 2 animals and you're slaughtering 2 necks, the knife has to be long enough for 2 animals plus another neck. It has to be long enough for 3 necks. And that means if you only slaughter 1 animal, it has to be long enough for how much? 2 necks. So then we see that what does the Mishnah mean when it says the knife has to be long enough for a neck? It means besides the neck that it did. The neck that it did plus another neck. Shmamina, that's a good proof. We have, in fact, a good proof from this Mishnah.
The length of the knife relevant?
Why should it be relevant? Apparently, because when you have a longer knife, you've had more of a cut, and the more of a cut, so then you'll get to slit both pipes without having to press through them. You just do 1 motion. It just goes like this. So if it's 1 long knife, so then with just 1 motion going like this, he may have gotten through both pipes. But if he's as a small knife and he just went this way as a small knife, to think that he got all of both pipes with 1 motion and then the knife only had enough space for the 1 neck, it doesn't make sense. He must have pressed because the head fell off. It's a very good slope.
Even if it's a tiny little knife, let's say you go very slowly, you're pulling. As long as you sever the whole thing, or you sever the majority of it, right? So you keep going.
The way I understand this is, theoretically, you're allowed to do theoretically, an olacha would work, or olaha would work. The problem is, in most cases, you would do a drisa when you do it.
Exactly.
That's exactly what.
So it's like zera.
Yeah, because otherwise, more likely than not, she says you're going to press it. Otherwise, and I don't think it says hatazan. In Hebrew, that means
knock off.
But also with melika, we had hatazan. Didn't mean cutting the head off; it just meant the simanim.
Yes.
So I think also here, because I think this rule applies if you're starting with 2 animals or doing holacha or just avara. As long as you've done shchita, you need that size of a knife without cutting off the head.
Yeah.
I think the cutting off the head is just a figure of speech here.
Yeah, I think that's correct. That's a good.
You need the 1 or 2 people to hold the cow, Rabbi.
Yeah, you do too. You need people to hold the cows.
You can even do 4 cows or 5 cows as long as you have an extra neck.
So these days they use a very long knife.
I think so. I think they use long.
Chickens, it makes sense. You can use, line up chickens.
I think we have to watch the YouTube videos. They have YouTube videos. I'm scared that there might be gories. I haven't looked at that yet, but I guess I should look, get a better sense.
I'm watching tofu right now.
We have to have.
Yeah, I have a friend who's a shochet. Maybe we can have a demonstration one Sunday, maybe in my backyard or something. We can then grill it afterwards. Takes a long time to salt.
Seth will provide the cow.
Take the
I
feathers
have
off.
the shrit of the goat.
You had a goat. Yeah. It was a lot. Alright, but when is this the case? Says the Mishnah, when do you need a longer knife? When there's only a single motion, just bringing and not bringing back and forth. And then if Then if you'd have a short knife, we're worried that it's going to be pressing. It's going to be drasa. Amar Rav Menashe, but if you go back and forth, then it's okay to even use a small knife. Amar Rav Menashe, the Mishnah said even an Ismail, even a little razor. Rav Menashe said, Ismail she'en lo karnaim. We're talking about a razor that doesn't have any horns, a razor that is just a blade. It doesn't have any part of it that's hooking. Amar Rav Acha Reder Rav Avai Rav Menashe. Rav Acha, the son of Rav Avaya, said to Rav Menashe, Machta mai. What about using a needle? Could you use a needle for shchita? Amalei, so he said to him, no. Machta mivza bavza. A needle's no good because its sharpness is not going to slit. It's going to tear and puncture the pipes. It's not going to cut them. Mivza bavza. So then he said to him, Machta jushkapi mai. What about the needle of the people who cut leather? So a cutter's needle. What about that? Amalei Tznina, that we learned in the Mishnah. Afilu kolshu, anything. So my lav machta dushkapi. Presumably that's to include the needle that the cutters use when they cut the leather. They said back to him, it's not a proof. Look, maybe that's a reference to Ismail. That's a reference to a razor.
Are they talking about a very long needle? Because we know it has to be.
No, not a long needle. No, it only has to be long if you do one motion. If you do back and forth motions,
it's only one motion where it has to be long. Okay, got it.
So now we're saying with a razor, you can go back and forth. So when the Mishnah said, even any bit, it's talking about a razor. Ismail, it says explicitly about the Ismail. The Gemara says, Prushi come before Aish. The Mishnah is explaining itself. My kolshu, Ismail. What does it mean that when you go back and forth, you can have a knife of any length if it's a razor knife? That makes sense, and that's what the Mishnah is saying. If the Mishnah is saying that you could even use a needle of the cutter, now you're allowing a needle of a cutter, the needle of the guy who cuts the leather. Is there any question that you can use a razor? So Gemara said, no, maybe Ismail tzrichalit. Maybe we would still need to tell you about a razor. I would have thought to say, since we don't want you to use a razor that has horns, maybe midrabanan you can't even use a razor that doesn't have horns. That's what the Mishnah has to tell you. Okay. So if you're going back and forth, you can use a razor. But maybe the Mishnah is also saying you could use a needle. So it's not a proof one way or the other from the Mishnah whether or not you can use a needle. But bottom line is Rav Acha said you cannot use a needle. All right, so now the major topic of today's daf, which is intentionality. Do you need intention? We're going to talk about shchita, and then we're going to talk about tevila, going into a mikvah. Says the Mishnah, nafla sakin v'shachta. Let's say there's a knife on the table, and I don't know, something happens, there's an earthquake, and the knife falls off the table. When it's falling off, it slits the neck of the animal that's underneath the table. Is it a kosher shchita? No. Even though it's shechted in its way, it's no good. Because for shchita, we need koach gavra. It has to be the power of a person. Because the verse says, you shall slaughter and you shall eat. What you slaughter, what you slaughter, not what the wind slaughters. What you slaughter, you can eat, not what nature slaughters. Says the Gemara, okay, let's listen to this Mishnah. It needs to be your act, but it doesn't need to be your intention. It doesn't need to be that you're planning for shchita. The reason why it was no good is because it fell on its own. It sounds like if you made it fall, it would be kosher. Even though you're not saying that I'm doing this in order to create a shchita. As long as it's your action, it's a human action, it would be kosher, even though it wasn't for shchita. Let's say a guy wants to practice throwing knives. He's taking knives and throwing them into the wall. So he throws a knife, and when he throws the knife, it slits the neck of a bird. It'd be kosher. Even though he's not trying to do shchita, he's trying to throw the knife. But it's his action. It's not nature making the knife move. It's his action. So it has to be his action, but it doesn't have to be any intention. It doesn't have to have a purpose. It doesn't have to be for this purpose. It doesn't have to be declared in order to shecht.
But Rabbi, today they're shechting all the chickens with the machine. There's no human being kovach involved. So is it kosher?
No, it's a human being. A human being slits. I don't think a machine doesn't. It's a human being.
only moves them around.
The machine holds the chicken and turns the chicken around, but the human being moves the knife.
They moved the knife, right?
As far as I know. Man Tana de lo binu kavanah l'shchita. Who is the Tana who says you don't need to have any declared purpose or any intention for shchita, you just need to have a human act? Amar Rabbi Reb Nassim. It's the view of Reb Nassim. The Tani Oshia Ziyur Demin Chavraya, as Oshia, the youngest of the friends, taught. Zarak sakin l'natza b'kotel. Somebody throws a knife in order to put it into the wall. And as it's flying, it slaughters in the right way. Reb Nassim says that the animal's kosher. And the Chachamim say it's no good. So, who Tani laws? He was the one who taught us this braysa. And then he explains it. Halacha Reb Nassan. Halacha's like Reb Nassan. Halacha's like Reb Nassan. There is no need for kavana. There's no need for intention and deliberation in regards to shchita. Asks the Gemara, Rav already taught us this halacha. All those who shech, back to the very first Mishnah, children, imbeciles, deaf mutes, if they shech v'acher no, some of the people who were supervising them to make sure it was a good shechita. There was no drasa, there was no shehiyah, there was no chalada. Shechita some ksheira, their shechita is kosher. I mean, and we said, man tanad lo boy kavana l'shechita. Who's the opinion who's the opinion of this Mishnah? Who says you don't need kavana for shechita? Amar Rav said it's Reb Nassan, So Gemara says, we need both lessons. The Yashmin and Hasmach would have told you over there in the beginning of the Masechta, there is intention for a cut. Okay, it's a child doing it, but there's intention for a cut. But when you throw a knife and you're not even trying to cut, maybe it doesn't work. The Yashmin and Hasmach would have told you here that it works when you throw a knife, because it's a person with intelligence throwing the knife. But over there, where it's a child cutting, it's not coming from someone who has das. Then I would think that maybe it doesn't work. That's what I need to tell you. In both cases, the shechita is kosher. So now we go from shechita to tvila, to going to the mikvah. Itmar we learned nida shenansa v'tavla. A woman's a nida, so a nida has two laws to her. She's impure. If she touches truma, we have to burn the truma. Truma that becomes impure has to be burned. She can't walk into the Temple Mount. And another law, she's prohibited to her husband. Can't have marital relations with her. So a nida shenansa, who was forced v'tavla, and thereby immersed in the mikvah. So there was no intention there. Somebody took her and dunked her in, presumably. We'll see what it means she was forced. So what's the halacha? Amar Yehuda Marav tahora lebeisa. She's permitted to her husband. The prohibitions removed from her. But in regards to Tumah, she's still not allowed to eat Truma. In other words, Tvila with no Kavana works for Isser, but it doesn't work for Tumah. It took away the prohibition, it doesn't take away the impurity. Rabbi Yochanan said, no, it doesn't even work for her husband. Rav said to Rav Nachman, the Rav Damar Torah Lebeis of Asur Lecho B'Truma, Rav who says that the immersion worked to take her, to allow her to be with her husband, but it didn't work to allow her to eat truma when she was dunked against her will. I don't understand. Being with her husband is avon kares. That's a prohibition if she didn't go to the mikvah of kares. Hutra, that was permitted by going to the mikvah. Isser misa mibaya. So is there any question about eating truma, which is less? It's just misa b'dei shamayim. Amrales, he explained the difference. A woman who's in need of being with her husband, it's prohibited. That's not a prohibition of Beit HaMikdash. That's a prohibition of two profane matters, two secular matters. The chulin lo ba'i kavana. In regards to chulin issues, immersion works even without intent. But in regards to Beit HaMikdash issues, Tvila only works with intent. Umina Tamran, how do I know to tell you this? It's not, because we learned in a Mishnah. Gal Shanitlash. Let's say there is a tidal wave that detaches from the ocean. So it's flying in the sky. And as it's coming down, Uvo Arbaim Sa. In the tidal wave, there's 150 gallons of water. There's 40 Sa. And it comes down onto a person or onto utensils. So they become pure. So my love, so presumably, why did it mention both person and utensils? To compare the two. Adam Dunya de Kalim, the person here is like utensils. Just like utensils, there's no intent. The person had no intent, and apparently a tvila, an immersion without intent, works to make a person tahor in regard to chulin. So what's in mind? Maybe that's not the case. Maybe maybe he was sitting and waiting for the tidal wave to detach and fall on him. He was sitting and waiting. A masa yitalei shagal. When is the wave going to detach? Now turning to Lamed Aleph, Amud Beis, and we should say that when it says utensils and persons, it's not to compare person to utensils, but it's to compare utensils to person. V'kelim dumi to Adam. Say the utensils are like a person. And ma Adam be in kavana. A person maybe is sitting and waiting, so you see a person needs intent. Av kelim nami the kamachavin look. Utensils, the kamachavin Adam. The person had intention that the water should come for the utensils. So if you're going to tell me if that's the case, he's sitting and waiting for this water, and he's waiting for the water for the utensils. So of course it works. What's the chiddush you're going to tell me? I'll tell you the chiddush. Well, the would have thought to say we should say it doesn't work because of a stream of rainwater that doesn't have the right amount. Inami ligza roshan atu kipin, or say that when the tidal wave detaches, so it's an arc. So the part coming down, that can work as a mikvah, because since it's coming down, we have a law of good achis. If it's coming down, it's as if it's on the ground. But the part that's still in the middle, flying like this, is not a good mikvah, because that's in the air. That's not on the ground. That's in the air. So we should say he shouldn't be tar by the part that's coming down, because maybe he's going to take a utensil and put it up in the part that's still horizontal, the part that's not yet coming down, the part that's arching. We should make a gzeira of Russian, the heads of this tidal wave are to keep in because of the arches of the tidal wave. Kamash went to the chiddush is a logazvina. How do I know the lomet belina bekipin that you couldn't take a utensil and put it up in the arch of the water? That's not because we have a mishnah. Matbilin berushin. When you have a detached tidal wave, you can immerse in the head of the tidal wave, which is heading downwards. But you can't immerse in the arch, because you can't immerse in water that's still in the air. You can only immerse in water in the ground. If it's coming down, it's as if it's on the ground. So it's not a proof here that chulin doesn't need kavana. Maybe this is a case of kavana. So how do we know, in fact, that an immersion for chulin doesn't need kavana, and even without kavana, the immersion works? How did Rav know this? It's from the following Mishnah. We've learned many times there's something called hechsher. In order to make a food item able to become tameh, it had to be washed with one of the 7 liquids, and it had to be washed willingly. That a person wanted that liquid on that food item. The time we went to the Mishnah. What about there's an apple tree, and the apples on the apple tree fell into the irrigation canal. Okay, so it fell on their own. There was no wanting the water there. And a man whose hands were tameh, because hands are always tameh, they're automatically tameh. They become a sheni l'tumah. That's why you needed to yadayim. A person whose hands had not been washed, he had hesach hadas. He stopped thinking about them. They were impure. He puts his hands into the irrigation canal to take out the apple. So yadav tahoros. His hands are tar, but upeiros ain't a b'kiyutan. But the fruits are not mukhshar, they're not able to become tameh. However, but if he puts his hands there because he wants his hands to be washed off, that means he wants this liquid. Again, yadav taurus, his hands become tar, and the fruits now become mukhshar. So what do you see? If he put his hands in there because he didn't want his hands to be in there, he just wanted to get the fruits out, the fruits don't become able to become tameh because the water, the liquid there was not wanted, but his hands become tar. So what do you see? Since it's for chulin, he doesn't need intention. As long as he's rinsed, he's tar. So let's make it very practical. A guy's tameh, whatever, he was tameh. He's walking on a bridge. The bridge collapses. He falls into the river. He walks out. He's now tahor. Now he can walk onto the Temple Mount. Not the Temple Mount, because that's already kachim. But in regards to chulin, in regards to secular matters, he becomes tar. In regards to secular matters, he becomes tar, even with an immersion, with no kavanah. That's in fact the halacha. That's the halacha. Yeah, question.
If A guy is sitting by the beach, right on the edge of water, and a big wave comes in. Okay, is that like a mikveh for him, or
If the wave has enough water in one spot,
if one?
yeah, he's got to be naked too. There's enough water. There's 40 saw. Yeah, the bottom of the wave
A
coming down.
big wave come, it has to be not a small one.
Yeah, 150 gallons in a wave. That's a lot.
Really?
Yeah, question.
Right in Florida.
He said, it's
Florida is,
a lot
let's
of,
go.
a lot of animals at once, you don't have to cover,
All of them, all the blood. Yeah, just a little bit of the blood.
so it's not really related to the specific animal that you're shechting.
Well, the assumption is that if you did a lot of animals, all the blood is mixed in, so you get some blood. It's considered having gotten some blood.
Rabbi, the Muslim, they copied all these things from us, and they do the
Yeah.
halal meat. So what, halal meat is not kosher for us?
No.
What is it different that they do that, that is against our...
I don't know what they do exactly, but I would
Has to cut by Jew, right?
assume
Doesn't she
they,
have to cut by Jew?
yes, but I would assume that they are they're pressing. They don't have these laws: not to press, not to pause. I think these are the issues. Not to.
They're
uproot.
clueless. They're also not shechting with the Jew.
Yeah, and they don't have a Jew shechter. Okay, great. So says the Gemara. Eisvei Rava Rav Nachman. Rava challenged Rav Nachman. We learned Tava L'chulin, person who goes into the mikvah for secular purposes, for Huchzak L'chulin. And his intention, he declared that the reason why he's going in is for secular purposes. Asr Meiser, he's still not allowed to eat Meiser Sheni. Because in regards to Meiser Sheni, he's still Tameh. Because for Kachim, for the holy things, you need Kavanah for them. So Huchzakin, if he had a declared intention, then he can't eat the Meiser Sheni. Lo Huchzak lo. But if he didn't have an intention, it sounds like, then even for Chulin would be no good. You said that for Chulin you don't need intention. Why says no? That's what it means. Even though he had intention for Chulin, Asala Meiser, it still doesn't work for the Meiser Sheni. It worked for the Chulin, but it doesn't work for Meiser Sheni. Eisvei Rava challenged Rav Nachman from another source. We learned again in that Mishnah. Tava below Huchzak, if he immerses without intention, Kilu lo Tava. It's as if he didn't immerse. So my love Kilu lo Tava klap. That sounds like it didn't immerse at all. That means it doesn't work for Chulin with no intention. No, that's not what it means. It means Kilu lo Tava la Meiser. It's as if he didn't immerse in regards to Meiser Sheni. Avol Tava l'Chulin. But he did immerse for Chulin. So who savar? So he thought, namely Rava thought, he's just pushing me aside. He doesn't really have a good answer. But Nafak, he went out, he looked carefully in the Mishnayos and the Braisos, V'ashkach, and he found, in fact, a source like Rav Nachman. The Tanu went in a Braisa. A person who goes into the mikvah without any intention, Mutter l'chulin is now permitted for chulin. Asr l'meiser, but still not allowed for meiser.
But what's the chulin? What does it mean you have to be pure for chulin?
Someone who's ochel chulin b'tahara, someone who wants to eat chulin in purity. Amalei Abai Rav Yosef. Abai said to Rav Yosef, maybe we should say this Bryce is a disproof of Rabbi Yochanan, because Rabbi Yochanan said that you need kavana even for chulin, and he said that a woman who's forcibly dunked is not permitted to her husband. Amalei Rabbi Yochanan. Rav Yosef answered, Rabbi Yochanan, who damar Rav Yonasan ben Yosef. Rabbi Yochanan will tell you that it's actually a machlokas tanaim. He's following Rav Yonasan ben Yosef. The guy is going to Braisa. Rabbi Yonasan ben Yosef Omer. Rabbi Yonasan ben Yosef says, it says in regards to tzaras on garments, that after the Kohen sees the tzaras on the garment, he puts it aside for 7 days. After 7 days, he again looks at it. And if it hasn't spread, then the Kohen says, okay, kibus, in other words, going to the mikvah. And another 7 days. And then after the 7 days, the tzaras has left, then it is immersed in the mikvah to purify it. As it says, va'beged o ashio erev O kol kli ha'or asher tachabes v'sar mehem anaga v'chuba shenis v'tzaher. So Rabbi Yonasan ben Yosef Omer. Why does it say v'chuba shenis? It could have said v'chubas. You put it in the mikvah and it becomes tahor. Ma'atam loma v'chuba shenis v'tzaher. Why does it say immerse it a second time it becomes tahor? So makish tichbos shniela tichbos rishona. So it's to link the second immersion to the first immersion, the first washing. Matich bos rishona ledas. The first time he washes, it's when the Kohen says you have to wash it out. So there's intent. After bos shniela ledas. So to the second time it goes into the mikvah, there has to be intent. Asks the Gemara, Malahalon be'inan das Kohen. Maybe there we need intent of a Kohen. Afkan bin das Kohen, right? The first time the Kohen sees the tzaras on the garment, he says, you put it into the mikveh, you put it into the laundry. You need the Kohen's das. It says, Vitzaher mikol makrim, without the Kohen's das. Maskefler, Rav Barashi challenges. So, Rabbi Yochanan, how can Rabbi Yochanan say that even for Chulin you need to have intent? I have Rabbi Yochanan, Allah Kistam Mishnah. Rabbi Yochanan says Allah is like a Mishnah which doesn't have an author. Which now we have our Mishnah, Nafla Sakan V'Shachta, a knife that falls and slaughters, Af B'Shachta Kedar Kapsula, even though it slaughters in its normal way, it's no good. V'Avinaban, we said, time of the Nafla, because that's the reason why this is the law, because it fell on its own. Hahi Pila, Huksher, but if somebody were to make it fall, it would be kosher. V'Avagad Lo Machavein, even though there was no intent. V'Amina, we said, Ma'atan Lo B'Lei Kavan L'Shchita, V'Amarav Rabbi Nasan, he. And who did Rava say? It's Rabbi Nassan. So you see that Rabbi Yochanan is going to paskin like Rabbi Nassan and say that Shechita doesn't need Kavana. So if Shechita doesn't need Kavana, presumably Tefillah doesn't need Kavana. So Rava says, listen, the Shechita, if Rabbi Yonasan ben Yosef, even Rabbi Yonasan ben Yosef says it in Shechita, you don't need Kavana. Midagili Rachmana misasek bekadshim pasuk. Since Hashem has to tell you through a drasha that someone who has no Kavana and he slaughters a karban, that's no good. To imply the bechulin lo bin kavana that if you slaughter chulin, if you slaughter something which is not a karban, you don't need kavana. And the Gemara says Rabbanan who say that you do need kavana for chulin, neida lo bin and kavana lizvicha. It's true that they'll say you don't need kavana, but in order to make it kosher for shchita, but lachaticha ba'inan, even in chulin, you do need to have kavana for a cut. You don't have to have kavana to create the heter, but you have to have kavana for this cut.
You need kavana for everything, Rabbi.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Amar Rav said, Bahan this, Akanu Rabbi Nasan Rabbanan. In this argument, Rav Nasan is more correct than the Rabbanan. Because Miksiv v'chatachta, because it's saying you shall cut. There's a vachta ksiv. It says you shall slaughter. So therefore, ibin and kavana l'chaticha, if you're going to say that you need some level of kavana on chulin, you should need kavana fully to make it permitted to a zvicha. If you're going to say you don't need kavana for zvicha, you shouldn't even need for a cut. And therefore, we really like the view of Rabbi Nasan. Says the Gemara, finally, what's this case of a woman who's a nida who was forced into the mikvah? If her friend pushed her in, then there was kavana. In Truma, that would also be enough to eat. It's not as you enter the Mishnah. Right? If you have a woman who doesn't have das, a woman with das can put her into the mikvah to be able to allow her to eat Truma. According to Rav Nasan, she fell off from a bridge. And according to the Rabbanan, it's shiyarda lahaker. She went down to cool off, not to immerse, and even so it would work. Rabbi Chanan ibn Akash Omer, Ratzak Kadosh Baruch Hu lezakas es Yisrael, if you can give them Torah mitzvah, shenem adon chafetz amat ziko, yagdil to Rav Yadzi.